morning or afternoon, I guess, for most of us at this point. It's nice to have you all here with us today. We have a great panel, a great discussion lined up for you guys. I'm so excited to get this started. What we're going to do first, though, is if you are in the decade of 2010 to 2020, would you please wave at the screen and say hi? If you're in the decade of 2000 to 2009, would you please wave at the screen? Same thing for the 90s. Would you wave at the screen if you're in the 90s, graduated from Kenyon in the 90s? Excellent. The 80s, give us a wave. Excellent. 70s, give us a wave. Excellent. 60s, if there's anybody out there from the 60s. Excellent. Hi, Bert. And if there's anybody from the 50s out there by chance, go ahead and give us a wave at this point. Excellent. We are going to start out by saying that questions are going to go into the chat box for you guys. And with that piece of information, I'm going to hand it over to Steve Durning. Steve? Thank you.
My name is Steve Durning. I am a class agent for the class of 1975, and I couldn't even write my graduating year on my Zoom box because I don't know how, because I'm old and technology, yeah. But so glad that you were able to be here. And the purpose of this Zoom meeting is to help class agents do their jobs. We think it would be helpful if we class agents could hear from each other what we've done that's worked, how we've made progress or failed to make progress in getting over the discomfort of asking people to give money, why we think we've been successful when we have been, what we've done that hasn't worked, why we're doing this, or whatever occurs to this panel to say that might be helpful. And yeah. People who are listening, don't mind me consulting my notes here. Listening to talking heads on Zoom can be boring. Actively participating is not boring. We urge you to use the chat feature right from the beginning of the talk, if you're moved to do so, to offer any thoughts or questions you have. As time allows, we hope to feature and discuss a couple of these thoughts and questions as we go along. So get chatting. Okay, we're going to start this off with Kristin.
Great, thank you. It's great to see everybody. I'm really happy I was invited to share in this event today. I'm the class of 79, and I had a daughter in the class of 2014, and we're on the same reunion schedule, so that's kind of fun. I get to see her friends at reunions. My big activity these days has been commuting to my farm in Ohio and renovating an old barn there, so that's my fun fact. When I was asked to talk about this, I thought about, well, what do I do for fundraising? And as class agents, that's one of the things we're supposed to do. So I thought of it in terms of engagement, and that fundraising is under a bigger umbrella of engagement. So we have the direct fundraising activities like the 36-hour campaign, and we go and send an email and said, please, contribute to this campaign. And then there's the other engagement opportunities that I think about throughout the year. We have the class letters to prepare for the class letters. We have the class notes. There's some other emails that come from the college, and reunion planning is another opportunity. So these engagement opportunities are times when we're not fundraising, but we're interacting with our classmates. And I think those are very important. They're a little harder to measure, but I think I'm in the long game with this, and that over time, connecting with my classmates is not only really fun, I really, really enjoy it. And I've gotten to know a lot of people that I didn't know during my Kenyan years. So I just got to put in that plug for how much fun it is. But it's also a way of getting people to participate in the college at whatever level. And that's financially beneficial for the college to have a high percentage of alums participating. I think in terms of my emails, and email is mostly how we're communicating in our class. We had a Facebook page, and we then discontinued that. So that might be something for the future. But my emails, I like to make them short. I think of email real estate as the top 1/3 of your email is the most important part, where your most important message needs to be. Because as I'm scrolling through many emails all day long, I'm going to read the first line. And if that hooks me, then I'll read more. So for the 36-hour campaign, which is a campaign I really like to focus on, I put in my first line: I'm writing you to participate in the 36-hour campaign. Please donate, and put the link right there. Then I mention a couple of things that really connect me to Kenyon and why I believe in the Kenyan mission. I might touch, and I'm writing to individuals. I just back up for a minute. I write to the individuals on my list and then some. I sent out about 60 individual emails last spring to do this. It was a lot. But I'll try to connect with the person if I remember the person, and I'll try to give something about myself in the whole thing. So I think that really covers my time. The last thing I would say is I say thank you to the people who contribute. And sometimes I've sent postcards and I've sent notes or an email, depends how much time. So that's the basics of what I do.
Thank you. Thank you. Molly, I know we're early on in the meeting, but anything come up on the chat?
It didn't, but I was wondering, I had a question actually for
Yes.
Kristin, because you mentioned that this engagement process is really a long game for you.
Yes.
You know, what's your, do you have an example, or what would you say? No, we've heard in the industry that it takes an average of 7 points of contact. Could you give an example? I would hope that maybe peer-to-peer it's fewer than 7. What would you say? How many times on average do you have to reach out before somebody replies, or are you the person that they become used to hearing from, and so you hear back right away?
Wow, that it's hard to say. It's hard to measure. I think the best way I measured it this past year, because I did a really big effort to reach out to individuals and personalize my emails. And they're short, they're not really long emails. So I looked at the giving in our class from the May date that the campaign started and through the end of the fiscal year to the end of June. And it looks like about 1/3 of the people who participated in donating last year donated in that time frame. I guess when I'm thinking about the long game, I'm also thinking about maybe as our class, we're in our 60s now, that people are thinking about what to put in their estate planning. So you really don't know how to measure the long game. But I'm hopeful that
I can see though that's really interesting. 1/3 of your participation came in that last chunk. So it does pay off all the things that you do throughout the year until we get to that big moment when we're sort of galvanizing everyone.
Yeah. Thanks for that question, Molly, and thanks for all those things that you said, Kristin. The long game, I liked hearing that too. Having a focus on an event, yours might be that 36-hour thing. Mine might be something else. But if there's an event that you really like, I think that can be helpful to a class agent. Writing to individuals, I definitely. Thank you notes, personal notes, definitely. Yeah. Thank you. Let's go on and hear from Kyle.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Kyle Laux. I'm the class of 2003. was a swimmer. I live in Richmond, Virginia. As we were just talking about earlier, I think it's in the 60s here. So I apologize to all of you that are dealing with snow and ice, etc. But I think I got really engaged in a variety of fronts, starting with a reunion a couple cycles ago. So been through a couple reunion cycles. I've been on the Kenyan Fund Executive Committee. I was a chair of that for a little while. And then a little bit involved in the capital campaign too. So, I think in terms of thinking about fundraising, maybe my mindset's a little bit different, and I realize not everyone's going to be like that. I've never had a lot of trepidation about asking for money on behalf of the college. I think part of that is maybe an understanding of Kenyan and how some of our resources are just smaller than many of our peers. We do an incredible job with what we have, but even after this capital campaign, which will be a big success, our endowment and things of that variety will still largely be, smaller than a lot of our direct peers. And so I think a lot of times when we're reaching out to folks, classmates, et cetera, and asking for money, which I appreciate lots of people have, trepidation about, I try and do a couple things. Number one, I try and make it more of a compliment than an ask, sort of, make it a complimentary instead of, hey, I want your money, sort of, I'm reaching out to you because you're important to the college. If you know that person has been a good giver in the past, thank them for those gifts and sort of encourage them to continue to be a partner with the college. And so making it more of a compliment, as opposed to, I think sometimes the tone, if some trepidation about asking can kind of be kind of apologetic. Don't be apologetic about it. The college is doing great. Capital campaign is doing well, but the majority of the asks that you're going to be making, absent maybe some unique circumstances as a class agent, are probably going to be for annual fund dollars, which are just super important to the annual operations of the college. The capital campaign that makes all kinds of headlines and has very big numbers associated with it are critical to long-term health of the college. It's building up endowment, doing a bunch of different stuff, but it's not going to negate the need for the annual fund dollars going forward. And so I think also as you are thinking about asking for dollars, making sure to reinforce how important those annual fund dollars are. Just because we got a bunch of money that's a bigger amount than anybody can kind of wrap their head around to do some capital buildings and things of that variety, your $100, your $200, your $50 is still really critical to the ongoing health of the college. And I think sometimes making that connection, especially in this environment where we're getting some great news about $500 million and 75 million. I think a lot of times the feedback is, what do you need my $100 for if you just got 75 million? And the reality is that continues to be important for a variety of reasons, and maybe just reinforcing some of that. And I think the last thing I'll say, and I'll stop talking, is agreeing with Kristin in terms of keeping it simple. I think we're all Kenyan educated, it looks like, I presume, obviously all class agents. But I think sometimes just keeping it very simple, like a subject header, I think it works. My subject header when I email people is always Kenyan with like 5 exclamation points. And so, I try to just kind of like, if somebody's scrolling through their email on their phone or whatever, just make it so it jumps out as opposed to trying to be too wordy. So I think it's worked sometimes, most of the time. Those are my thoughts. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Kyle. Just a few greatest hits from what I just heard. Complimenting rather than asking, in a sense. Don't be apologetic. And, making, I think sometimes the college will say the annual fund is critical. And it's a little bit easy to just kind of block that out. Like, yeah, you just got this huge gift. But no, I think you're right. If we could, and if we're not educated on that subject, we class agents, we should educate ourselves so that we can really actually make that case. I mean, I agree about being brief and simple also, but I think that's very helpful to me. And and I like the notions of keeping it simple and 5 exclamation points. I know you just said those things, but I felt the need to say them again. Thank you.
Very good.
Yeah. All right. Let's go on and hear from Victoria.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Victoria Lederer, class of 2011. Kyle, that was awesome to hear. I was also a swimmer, so yay, swimming. But outside of work, a lot of my time is dedicated to Ironman training. So I have a few races on deck this summer that I'm super excited about. But yeah, that's how I spend a lot of my free time. I think like many people here on the call, you know, at the heart of why I'm a class agent, I just love connecting with people and kind of, you know, thinking about all the great memories that I might share with people I'm assigned to. And so I really try to think about those kinds of connections that I had with individuals as I'm thinking about my outreach for the year. So whether it's, you know, we shared a pre-orientation program, I have a few people where I shared that, or we were on teams together, or we were in the same major. I try to kind of think about that as I'm doing outreach with individuals, and maybe there are certain times of the year where it's nice to kind of, hey, you know, I'm thinking of you, hope all is well. I think that's just an important kind of part of the engagement pipeline, you know, as you're keeping contact with people. But I think something I really want to maybe highlight a little bit more today is our class had a lot of success last year in the runway to reunion, especially with some virtual events. And so I really love what's in the chat from class of 77. Kind of thinking about, you know, what is special to your class that might be a good hook for people to kind of get them engaged. And that's certainly something that class of 2011 really thought about as we were kind of prepping for the big virtual reunion weekend. So, you know, I was lucky to be surrounded by a great team. We have a great class agent group in 2011. So, you know, I think we really thought about, you know, what classmates we had out there who, you know, were either in interesting careers or, you know, artists or performers. So we found a lot of success kind of brainstorming a lot of options and then kind of, you know, going through the process one by one of, is this going to be successful for us? What's going to be the best hook? What's going to bring in the most people? So 2 that I'd like to highlight, we actually did a trivia night where we got a ton of people to come. We had a few classmates who do trivia, often for political fundraisers. So they were kind of in the know of how this works and how to get people there. And we actually ended up having a really successful both participation and also getting people to engage with the annual fund, so for a donation. So it was a really, I think, awesome touch point for us that really kick-started things for you know, the virtual celebration. And then we also had a fun night where we had a private concert from one of our classmates who is the front singer for Half Wave. So that was really awesome. So yeah, it was just a nice way, I think, to create some touch points. You know, I connected with classmates I hadn't connected with in a while. And then that was really helpful when it came to some of the giving days and to reunion weekend itself. That, you know, I was able to connect with that person because they were at those events. So again, I think it's just about, you know, recognizing maybe what talent or what people you have in your class and how you might be able to engage them in these kind of virtual opportunities. Because I think if anything we've learned over the past 2 years is that the virtual space really, I think, opens access for people in ways that maybe we haven't had it available before. So I think it opens a lot of opportunities. And then just remembering there's great Kenyan staff to kind of help with promotion and setting up links. So don't hesitate, I think, to be in touch with ideas because they were really supportive of us throughout the whole process.
Yeah, it's so helpful. I mean, I do have to do my greatest hits thing. First of all, Iron Man, wow. Second of all, I love that phrase, engagement pipeline. Like, what if you were to write a note when it wasn't even like the end of the financial year or, you know, whatever? Great, I love that. Virtual events. Why haven't I thought of that? You know, in my class, a beloved class member died not so long ago, and there ended up being an event just to remember that person, and it was great, you know. But right, and trivia and that idea of the concert, whoa, and also a good reminder to class agents to remember you have a staff at Kenyon who will support with technology, especially, you know, even if you're not great at it, like me. So yeah, Molly, anything coming up on the chat? It doesn't have to be a question. It could be a question.
I don't have any questions. I really liked what Victoria said about having a team on her class agent team and that group of folks that have a lot of different inroads into the class. And so one of the things I was just thinking about is if you feel like your class doesn't have that team, let's work together to try to help you get that team for your class. And that's what my staff and myself, if I help you manage your class, is really important, because what might work really, really well for 2011, if we take a template and try to slap it on top of a different class, is not going to work, because it's about the people. So I think that's right. Yes, 91's trivia was also super successful last year. It was like so much fun.
Oh, that's nice. Okay, I'm gonna I'll go on, and it's my turn to go, but I'm gonna start with just it's kind of an announcement, and it has to do with this team building thing that I would say my class has not done, and that we should. And we have all these people, and we just have to think about how to do it well and thoughtfully. But I'm gonna use my notes because I'm afraid I'll get it wrong otherwise. The class in 1975 does have about 12 class agents, and we hope to gather as a group of 12 in the near future in a Zoom meeting like this one, where everyone gets a few minutes to share what their experience has been, and what's been what's worked, what's been a challenge, and that way we can learn from each other and better support each other. And as we were just hearing from Victoria, and build some team spirit even, so that we can work strategically together and feed off of each other, not just in this one-off kind of event, but in other ways too. I think that would be great. So anyway, and I think that the alumni office will be talking to class agents from all the years to see if they're interested in having such an event too. So if you have, it sounds like, for example, with Virginia's group, you don't need to. You guys are already all plugged in with each other. But if I know some class agent years, there's just one. But if it makes sense, the idea of having a meeting with the other class agents in your year, it could be good. Yeah, and the basic format of what's working and what's being hard, I think, is a handy one to use as you go into these things. Or I found some. Okay, here comes my spiel. You ready? Now, I was thinking as Kyle was talking, he was saying, keep it simple. I think my way is not so simple. And Kyle, I bet you raise more money than I do. But we all have to do it in the way that we do it, right? So anyway, here's how I do it. I became a class agent after I retired. I had the luxury and privilege to go back again and try again with my classmates now that I was retired. Try again in the sense that, it's like I'm going back to college. All those people I wish I had known better, been more open to, been shy with. I wanted to go back and do Kenyon again, in a way, which kind of weird, but there it is. I used my class agent role as an excuse to write each of my chosen class members a personal letter, sharing specific memories with them, the things I would write in a real letter, because it was a real letter. I wanted to be my real self, and explaining why I thought contributing to Kenyon was a good and important thing. I wanted to explain really why I thought it was a good and important thing, which I do, and for me to do. No party line stuff, authenticity all the way. I'm lucky in that I like to write the way some people like to knit or to cook. You might say that it's how I self-soothe. But all us class agents went to Kenyon. We all had to write a lot. If we were lucky while we were at Kenyon, we wrote things that by the end, we had to admit we were proud of what we had just done. And it's fun when people write back, and they will write back, has been my experience. So oddly, asking people for money has been a way of making and remaking friendships for me. I keep reminding myself to keep it real. And when I do, I feel like I'm not badgering them or exploiting them or whatever. They feel connected with me, and that reminds them, I hope, of the connections that we had at Kenyon and the connections we can still have with our Kenyan community. So they feel invested, so they give. I think part of where I'm coming from is the group of people who I got to select to be in my posse were a bunch of people who you might say are, that expression, it's like herding a bunch of cats. It's people a lot of people who have some authoritarian, anti-authority streaks in them. A lot of people who would never have gone within 50 yards of a fraternity because that just wasn't like hippie enough or something, things like that. So I think they don't want to come unless to whatever it is, to the engagement. I mean, of course, there's some people who are getting money anyway, but they want to feel like, where's the fun in this? And that's why I love that idea of having a Zoom meeting where you get a member of the class giving a concert. Boy, that's something my gang would sign up for, Yeah. So I think we might have 2 or 3 minutes left. Is that correct? In case we have, if anybody has any more thoughts, whether it's people who have been listening via the chat, or if it's people who want to be recognized by whoever's moderating this thing behind the scenes, or certainly if other panelists have any thoughts or questions or whatever at this time.
Heather, you had your hand up?
Hi, thanks. I'm class of 2018. So I haven't had as much experience doing this as other people have. And right now there are only agents in my class. And we have been fielding questions from lots of people in our year, in the year below us, and the year above us about how Kenyon spends money. And a lot of people who don't want to donate because they don't like what Kenyon does with some of its money, especially when it's come to hiring Jones Day, like the law firm. So I was wondering if anyone has had questions about that from people in your year, and if so, how you have spoken to your classmates about that.
Great question.
It's come up in our class of old timers, class of 77. This is about the effort of Kenyan student workers to unionize, it'd be good. I think some alumni are interested in a dialogue with the college to find out what the issue is and what the position is.
Thank you.
I would just say from our perspective that that I hear you, and we know that those are the questions that you get. I know particularly with our younger alumni that there are concerns. We are actively exploring opportunities for listening events. So we have the sort of on a few things that you'll over the next I'd say through May, there will be a couple of opportunities for some open forum conversations. I would also say that, you know, there are some ways right now that you can support Kenyan students that folks are feeling more comfortable with if they are having some concerns about the annual fund. So we have had a lot of success with the Kenyan Access Initiative. We're really, really excited about that. So while our job in annual giving is certainly to support the Kenyan Fund, we are also really, really concerned about participation. And we are aware that, you know, anytime where we don't or can't, I think in the case of some of the things how they're brought up, you know, I can't comment on that. I don't know anything. I don't have anything to share. So it is difficult for us. So we do try in our world to really shift to some of the things that support students directly. And that is often helpful with your classes. And Heather, certainly happy to talk with you offline more about strategies for addressing your class or keeping them engaged. Frankly, if giving isn't a thing that feels good right now, I think it's still really important that you guys keep those relationships with each other going.
This is Chris from the class of '89. I just want to echo what Molly said there. Sometimes what I hear is, well, I feel connected to my classmates, but not as much to the college. Well, your connection with your classmates happened because of the college during your time on campus. And one of the best ways to support fostering those kinds of relationships that we've all enjoyed in some cases for many decades, in other cases for, you know, just 3 or 4 or 5 years, and you'll feel those continue to grow over time, is support students on campus now. That is a way for them to have the resources to connect through activities, through clubs, through fraternities, if that's their thing, through sports teams, and build the framework for those relationships that are really going to grow and deepen over time. We're always going to have issues with some aspect of the administration. It's the nature of students to be frustrated with administration. That was our feeling when we were on campus. It's the feeling of students now. And we shouldn't tell them, you know, just shut up, they're doing the right thing, take the long view. Students are grounded in their experience of what's happening right in front of them at this time, from the ages of 17 or 18 to 21 or 22. And they should, you know, struggle against the boundaries that are set for them by the college. That's how they learn to be advocates for themselves and for issues that are important to them. So that's no surprise to me. I think that's a healthy tension that happens on campus. And any administration that is unanimously endorsed by both students and alumni is being too conservative in its approach to managing the long-term aspects of an enormous entity that is a college campus and campus infrastructure. That's just my 2 cents. I think that some tension is healthy. If there were no ripples or waves in the water, then I would be worried about things being too placid.
Oh my gosh, you know, this, it sounds like, wow, we could go on a while because this is super interesting. The people who have chimed in here at the end, really good to hear your voices. Thank you. And so there is more to talk about. So I'm sure Terry and Molly are taking note of that. But on the other hand, we were talking beforehand about respecting the fact that these are lunchtime meetings. And if unless I'm wrong, it has been a half an hour or whatever. Is that right? Yeah. So the people who just spoke, thank you. And let's get back together sometime, somehow, or, you know, keep having these events, whatever it is. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to Molly for a final word.
Terry's our final word.
I'm going to turn it over to Terry for our final word.
Just bye, right, Terry?
I just want to say thank you all for being here today. It's awesome to see all these faces. It's awesome conversation. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Kristin, and thank you, Victoria, for being our panel today. This couldn't have gone any better, in my opinion. I'm really happy for the conversation and for the time together. So thank you. Any comments, anything else you want to add, please email us. We're more than happy to hear. And you guys all have a great day and a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.